Ladies and gentlemen, hey hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Warzone has been out for just about 2 weeks now, and in that time, we've already seen a handful of changes and other updates come to the game, ranging from the addition of the solo mode for Battle Royale to various fixes like wall breaches and other stuff like that. Now, that's all fine and dandy, right? But with how much I've been playing the game and how much attention it seems to be getting right now, today I wanted to sort of break down the big changes and updates I would like to see added in to really help the mode reach its maximum potential. I mean, so far I'm honestly having a ton of fun on Warzone, however I do think some improvements could be made. So that said, if you have any changes you would like to add to the list, be sure to drop them down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it, and of course, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news and intel. Also, today is the final day of round 2 for Scuff Madness, so if you do want to help me move on to the next round, be sure to use code WhosImmortal on literally anything on the site. Now, I do want to preface all of the conversation today by saying that this is simply my opinion when it comes to the changes that I think Warzone needs. This by no means reflects what will actually happen in the future, nor do I want to come off as I'm complaining. Because, like I said, I do really think Warzone is a great time, but I think it could be even better with a few certain adjustments. Like, for instance, one thing I do notice that doesn't seem quite right is the audio, particularly the footsteps. Now, sometimes footsteps just seem completely non-existent. You know, people can sneak up right behind you and you won't hear a thing, regardless of if they're sprinting or walking or sliding along like a snake, they can be completely silent. Then other times it sounds like you're an elephant when you're stomping across the ground, especially on surfaces like metal or concrete. So just more consistency in the footstep audio, I think would be a pretty big improvement all around. Now, staying on the topic of audio, there is another situation where I don't feel like the audio is all that accurate, and that is when you hear gunshots in the distance. Obviously, if an enemy team is firing an unsilenced weapon, they are going to appear on your minimap if they are in close proximity to you, and, of course, you are going to hear those shots as well. But something I've noticed is that my team and I will hear some shots in the distance that sound relatively close to us, but then they don't appear on the minimap, and in reality, they're not that close to us at all. So the distance that sound carries currently seems to be a little off, and the change that I would like to see here is just a more accurate volume level of shots compared to where they are in relation to you and your team. And I guess in general, audio consistency and accuracy is one of the more glaring concerns I have as of right now. Then, the next change that I think Warzone could use is a small decrease in the time that it takes the first few zones to come in. Now, in my opinion, late game in Warzone is fantastic. You know, it's hectic, it's chaotic, there's always teams left, right, and center, you name it, and the final zones are always really fun to experience. But on the other side of the spectrum, the first 2 zones take a pretty decent amount of time to come in. And I feel like the game could play a lot faster if zones 1 and 2 moved in faster and also earlier, forcing players to sort of pick up the pace in the earlier stages. I will say this is definitely my impatience speaking here, but I do like the action. You know, regardless of if I'm wiping squads or if I'm going down, I would much rather be in constant fights than running aimlessly through fields waiting for the zone to push all the teams together. Now, of course, if there is less time in those earlier stages, that means everyone is going to have to loot faster. And when it comes to looting, I do think there could be some improvements made here too. We all know that the looting in Warzone is a bit lackluster, I guess you could say, because the drop kits are kind of a game changer. You know, I say kind of, they are the game changer this year, and we'll touch more on that here momentarily. But I will say that the current loot pool we have is very limited. You know, we see the SCAR, the MP7, the Model 680, the MG34, and there's not really much else out there when it comes to ground loot or even stash loot most of the time. And that to me pushes drop kits even more, since those aren't all the greatest or most ideal weapons in certain situations. So I definitely think we need more variety when it comes to loot. I mean, Modern Warfare has one of the best weapon arsenals in all of Call of Duty history. We have plenty of weapons to choose from, so to limit it like it is now, to me just seems like a bit of a wasted opportunity. So seeing different weapons or just more weapons all around would be a great change in my own opinion. Now, going back to that whole drop kit conversation, obviously loadout drops completely eliminate the entire RNG aspect of the game. As soon as you can buy a drop kit or you stumble across your free one, that's it, that's GG. You know, you've got your kitted M4 or your kitted sniper or whatever else it is you're running, and then you're basically set. I mean, yeah, obviously you still gotta win your gunfights, but why spend time trying to loot for anything other than cash when you can just buy your loadout every single match? So as much as I love the ability to earn them so easily, I do think the drop kits need to change. However, here's where things get a bit tricky, because there are honestly multiple ways to go about it. You could severely increase the price of the drop kits in the buy stations. What, they run 6,000 cash right now? So what if we increased it to 12,000 or even 15,000? Then suddenly there are a lot less drop kits being bought. Or what if you limited a drop kit to one per team? So only one person in your squad actually gets to access it. Then everyone else either has to buy their own or find a free one. Also, speaking of the free drops, we could see those come in less frequently, or once again we could limit them to one per team to sort of minimize the custom class spam. Moving on though, I do also think that we should have the ability to drop the weapons that we're holding. As of right now, the only way you can drop a weapon is to pick up another weapon and swap them out. And that kind of makes sharing with your team a little difficult. You know, you can't drop your second primary for your buddy who just got back from the gulag, and that could lead to some less than ideal situations if you are headed into an engagement. So simply adding the option to drop your weapon would be a great addition. Now, let's also talk about another crutch that I think could use a nerf, and that is Overkill. Much like the drop kits, Overkill is another thing that a ton of players are using, because having that sniper and that rifle or that shotgun and that sniper combination is a really nice thing to have, right? But I also think gameplay could be a little bit more interesting, I guess, if Overkill simply didn't exist. Now, of course, you do have to choose between Overkill and Ghost and Restock and whatnot, but I kind of like the idea of being forced to either open more drops to get two primaries, or having to use a weapon that is found by natural looting as a secondary. It just adds more variety into the mix, and once again would change up the meta, which I think makes things even more entertaining all around. Also, thermal sights. I mean, we all know everyone and their mother right now is using a thermal sniper. Thermal scouting is a seriously OP strat, and yet again, simply for the reason of changing the meta, I do think thermals could be adjusted and nerfed in some capacity. Now, keep in mind, this is coming directly from me. Pretty much every single winning gameplay that you guys see on the channel features me using a thermal sniper. You know, I do love using them right now, but I do think they need to be changed as well. I also want to bring up custom classes in general, as another small change I think Warzone could use is just separate classes for the mode itself, and not the same exact classes that you use for multiplayer. This is a bit nitpicky, I get it, but having to change my classes whenever I want to play multiplayer or whenever I want to play Warzone can be a little tedious, so separate classes for each would be an ideal update to see. Then the next change I would like to see is just more mobility in vehicles, meaning you could shoot and engage at a greater radius than what we have now. I think Blackout did it pretty well where you could shoot forwards, backwards, left, right, pretty much anywhere you wanted to while in a vehicle. But in Warzone, you just don't have that option. It is pretty much limited to a 180-degree point of view. So allowing us to, undo our seatbelts and look backwards would be pretty cool. Now, on top of that, an FOV slider on console would also be awesome. I gotta say, as someone who plays on PS4 and PC, that FOV change between the platforms just hurts me. It cuts deep, and being able to change that field of view on console would be a universally appreciated update if you ask me. Then, finally, the last big change I would want to see is more diversity within the gulag, meaning mainly just different weapons to use. Right now, it's pretty much just shotguns and pistols, and that can be a little bit boring. And also, I just don't want to keep using that stupid 357 setup, which I always lose with. So yeah, to see some variety when it comes to gulag weapons would be a pretty nice change as well. But with all of that being said, those are effectively the major changes I would want to see come to Warzone, and that is going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here and you want to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news and intel, updates and leaks, and everything else in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. That way you'll always know when I post a new video. As I mentioned earlier, round 2 of Scuff Madness is coming to a close tonight, so if you want to help me get one step closer to getting my very own Scuff controller, be sure to use code IMMORTAL on anything on the site. You know, it can be a small keychain or a pair of thumbsticks, it could be a full-on controller, literally any code use helps increase the chances of me moving on. But once again, thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.